So what if I told you teen wasn't Wiccan? Before you start booing me and coming after me with pitchforks, I definitely understand. I get it. A couple things to run down with you, just like, hear me out. I do personally think he's Wiccan. That's just the first layer of everything that Wiccan is as a character. There is so much that goes into Wiccan. There's so much that goes into magic lore. There's a lot of things he could be, and I want to walk you through that. We're only like 5 episodes in, which means that there's 4 more episodes to get into some juicy details that aren't just the Wiccan reveal, because everybody was waiting for it, so now what do we do? And it's actually like confirmed by the writers of the show that there is definitely more to just Wiccan than meets the eye. But we have to go sit where we usually do, because this is the wrong place for it. So let's go. Walk with me.
What was his dad? A synthezoid made by 2 of the smartest men in the MCU. And his mother was a witch. Grow up, dog. Let's talk about Mr. Wiccan. What you need to know, in the comics, and it's very important because I keep seeing rumors floating around about how Wiccan's evil and he knew about this all along, and it wasn't Agatha all along, it was Wiccan all along. He's not evil. He's not. A lot of the themes in this last episode, for episode 5, is that he can't control his powers. That's one thing that happens with Wiccan. He has these reality warping powers, literal powers, reality warping, that he can't control because he's a kid.
I couldn't control it.
Yes, you could have.
One of the things that gets him into trouble in Young Avengers 2013, it links itself to his desires and his daydreams and his wishes. He is literally a kid, so he's just hopeful for so much in his life, and that ends up manifesting through his powers and doing poorly. When you think about, like, everybody's like, oh, well, Wiccan is, you know, wishing for the worst for everybody because he doesn't like them. He wanted Sharon dead so he could be in the coven.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I didn't think you would want them.
Maybe he wanted a place in that coven, but his powers, the way they work in the comics, if he wanted a place to open in that coven, it could have ended up that Sharon died.
R.I.P. Mrs. Hart.
Was it his master plan? No, he's a kid and he was hopeful that he could be a part of this found family, and that is what he wanted to do. I firmly believe that that's what happened when his powers actually manifested, is that he desired revenge against Agatha, revenge against the witches that turned on Agatha for this all to happen. He didn't mean to do it. His powers manifested, he couldn't control it. That's just a fundamental character trait of Wiccan. He stops heroing for a while because stuff doesn't do well. When he tries to use his powers, it doesn't work. But it's also what happens to Wanda in the MCU, so like...
You're so much like your mother.
But what could Wiccan be? After I get off my high horse about talking about how he's not evil. So Wiccan in the comics is known as the Demiurge, and that is a being that can essentially warp reality so much that he'll eventually rewrite magic as a whole. But what does that mean? He's just really cutesy, really Demiurge? No. When they actually try to figure it out in the comics, it's a really rough time for him. Loki's trying to borrow his magic so that he can cast a spell that will help reverse the spell that went wrong, because Wiccan wanted so much to help Teddy get his dead mother back that he brought the wrong one back, and it ends up being an evil alien called Mother that controls all of their parents and brings their dead parents back from the dead and makes them evil. To reverse that, they end up having to cast a spell to essentially rewrite reality to a point where that mother just didn't come to that universe. To do that, it's either like the weight on Wiccan's shoulders in that moment is so strong that it is do this and get it right and don't it up, because if you do, everyone's gonna die. If you can't handle this spell, everyone's gonna die.
We have to Ouija.
It's not a verb.
So the only option is to get this right the first time. It's a lot of pressure for a kid, or Tommy and Billy. This is not Tommy Maximoff, that is not Billy Maximoff, technically. So in the comics, which is kind of the similar storyline to WandaVision, they are born to the Scarlet Witch, has made them as a figment of her imagination to some point. In the comics, they are parts of Mephisto's soul. In WandaVision, that they are partially Vision. Do we know how they became, you know, somewhat sentient? No. In the comics, Wanda's boys do end up disappearing when her illusion is shattered. Their souls end up transmorphing into like the bodies of a Billy and Tommy somewhere nearby. So those kids that inhabited those bodies don't exist in those bodies anymore. That is now Tommy Maximoff and Billy Maximoff. They kind of are figuring that out as they go, because he still has his super speed. He ends up causing a lot of trouble, getting put in jail, and then they experiment on him to become a super weapon, because he can run so fast that it like changes the atoms around him. And then Billy kind of grows up normal, but he does get worried that his life is so normal because his reality warping powers made it so. Because why does he have such a Prince Charming of a boyfriend? Why are his parents so understanding of him? Why are they understanding of his boyfriend living with them when they are just teenagers? It's a lot of like, it's almost too good to be true, and it puts a lot of doubt in his head that reality is not the way it seems, it's the way he wants it. which leads into what is happening in Agatha All Along, where a lot of stuff is going the way he wants it. He is finding all the clues, he is setting up all the trials pretty much perfectly. I don't think this is something that is actually like what he wants to do is inherently evil. I think it is just going that way because that's what he wants.
If you value your freedom, join us here tonight.
Maybe he wanted to get injured during Alice's trial because he wanted to be a part of the coven so badly. His own powers just went, hey, the way you can kind of feel accepted is if you also carry the burdens of this coven, which is what you firmly believe is part of being the coven. So that's something interesting because that's part of his character in the comics, and that demiurge reveal would be something that is different than just being, hey, Joe Locke is playing teen who is playing Wicked. So that's something. There's also the slight stretch, long stretch, that he could be doing something like lore. It's Wanda's evil variant. She was introduced in 1994. She is from a dimension where necromancy rules, so she's been introduced this year in the comics as well. Usually the comics reflect something that's happening in the MCU. That's just kind of how it works anymore. So with lore coming back and getting a design that looks, you know, like Wanda Maximoff in Multiverse of Madness. It's a sleigh, by the way. She looks so good. If evil, why hot? That's what I want to know. But she has the power of necromancy. She's built of a bunch of souls. She can steal people's powers and life forces and all of that stuff, which sounds a lot like Agatha. And Wanda in the 1994 version had banished her like Wanda had done to Agatha. So maybe there's something there as well. And it's not actually that, it is kind of like Wiccan, who's kind of in layman's terms a soul possessing a possibly dead kid, if he was the one that died in Eastview in the car crash.
A car wreck about an hour before time of death.
Where?
Eastview.
I was born and raised.
Who knows? That's still a floating theory. I haven't been proven wrong yet. But that is something that is very important to think about because, again, Marvel Comics do reflect the MCU anymore. So anything that has come out magically in the last year is fair game. Could be a dark variant of the Billy Maximoff we know now. I know multiverse stuff is it would be nice to see that kind of character, even if it's not within Wiccan. Could be Rio, for all we know. What I think Wiccan will end up being. Wiccan is still Wiccan. I do think that Joe Locke is playing Billy Kaplan, who is Billy Maximoff, who is Wiccan. The character was never supposed to be played by the original kid actor. He was supposed to be somebody else entirely the whole time. That is something that I've seen people ranting about on the internet because that actor is old enough to still play Billy Kaplan. It's sad. It's hard to see a character like not be played by the same person anymore. Do you guys even remember Rhodey's original actor? Is a different character. He is a different boy who is possessed by the soul of Billy Maximoff, and that is something that is very, very important, no matter if it's in the comics or if it is in the show. They were never supposed to be continuing the Billy Maximoff as we knew him scheme. So is he evil? No. Is he probably the demiurge? Yes. Is he going to be probably the savior of magic? Yes. Do I think he's evil? No. Do I think he's a kid that's been dragged onto the road whether he likes it or not? I think he hoped so hard that it ended up happening because that is something very important to Billy Kaplan. The world of Marvel magic is weird and winding and sometimes does a complete 180, but it is very much fundamental to know that Billy can't handle his own powers because of his demiurge like prophecy. We're just waiting for him to be like Scott Pilgrim at the end of the film. We're waiting for the messy to happen, and then at the end I think we'll figure out what he is, because there's more to come. There's only, there's 4 more episodes while I'm filming this, so like there is a lot to see from Billy Kaplan, and I'm very excited to see where this little guy goes. I think we're gonna see the rewriting of magic as we know it in Marvel, because it has been set up to a degree, but it hasn't had the full potential that it can, because the Marvel magic world is very densely made and it has a lot of rules, and I'm very excited to see them hopefully come into play after this, especially because we're setting up Doctor Doom and all of that. It's just a tiny little deep dive into the character of Billy Kaplan, aka Wiccan. If you want to learn more, definitely give us a like and a follow, and I will see you guys next time. All right, stay geeky. Also, do you think he killed Sharon? Do you think he's been the mastermind of all of this? Do you think he's actually Mephisto in disguise? Let me know. I want to hear in the comments below. All right, bye.